Welcome to the Board Game Academic Podcast, where we explore the crossroads of scholarship, play, and practice. I'm your host, Christopher Carbone, scholar, educator, and of course, lifelong gamer. Each week this semester, we will discuss with brilliant minds how analog games inform real-world practice, support meaningful change, and challenge us to think critically, whether in the classroom, clinics, communities, or beyond. This week, I'm joined by
Matthew Konerth. I'm a doctoral candidate at the University of Denver and School of Iliff. I study feminist disability studies in media, film and television. Specifically, I look at how I can combine feminism and disability studies to further the goals of both fields.
Wonderful, Matthew. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for lending us your scholarship to be part of our journal. It's really exciting to have, and we really want to talk more about that. But before we get into all that kind of fun stuff, maybe you could tell us a little bit about your gaming history. Do you have a favorite game or game system or games that you're into?
Absolutely, and thank you for having me, by the way.
Excellent.
We're going to talk about chess today, so chess is probably my favorite game, but
yes.
I feel like that's cheating. There's two other games I want to mention as maybe my favorite games. One is poker, which I played growing up. Like after dinner, the family would gather around the poker table.
Sure.
And there'd be like three generations of Konerths, the little kids, my father and my grandfather playing poker for nickels. And that was always a good memory. Learning strategy and having fun with that growing up. And oddly enough, a lot of chess players are also poker players. There's an overlap there.
Great.
And lately, like in the past year, I've become obsessed with this game called Root.
Yes.
Which is a really fun board game that's very asymmetrical. And have you discussed it before on your podcast? I'm curious.
We have. It's a big favor, especially for Anthony on the podcast.
It's wonderful.
Yes.
And I love the interlocking systems, how much thought was put into that. And especially as like a critical scholar, I love how it kind of all the different factions rethink the war game. So you're not just, one side is trying to dominate and war, but another side's the rebels trying to survive. One's just this, this one hero trying to, help out all the different people.
Sure.
And then you've got one side that's, a war profiteer. It thinks about, what's all the different stuff that's happening.
Yes.
And then it's like, here's one side that's cultists that arise. So it's a lot more clever, I think, than a lot of war games that are just, risk.
Yes.
And I really appreciate the lore that comes out of that. Also, it's just a lot of woodland creatures, which is fun to play as.
It's adorable woodland creatures doing counterinsurance. See, like, who would have thought, like, war game, woodland creatures, warlike game, woodland creatures?
Yeah, I mean, and the cats are essentially Saruman from Lord of the Rings,
Yes,
and it's
are.
the most adorable thing.
Nothing like the lumber mills that they're building throughout the game.
They're burning the forest of Isengard,
That's
and
right.
you've either got to side with them or stop them. So
Gotta be part of the Woodland Alliance. That's what I'm saying. That's my favorite.
If you want to win, they do great.
And what's your favorite faction?
I love the mechanics of the otters.
Oh, the otters are awesome. Yeah.
The otters are fantastic. I love how that you kind of have to act as this, like, in order to win, you've got to sell what you have to the rest of the game.
Yes.
Because you've got to, like the other factions have to buy from you.
Yes.
But the more they buy from you, the more powerful you get. So you have to convince them that if they don't buy from you, they're going to be weaker. So it really works with those asymmetrical mechanics of Root very well.
Very cool. Now, it's a great game. And like you said, highly tactical, strategic. All the factions work very differently from each other as far as the gameplay is concerned. And yet they all have similar, almost identical goals that they're trying to kind of accomplish. So, brilliant game. So now talking about all of this stuff here, Matthew, bring us into your scholarship that you did for the journal and let people know about it.
Absolutely. So on the very first edition of the Board Game Academics Journal, and we've got two out now, and I know we're submitting for a third one soon.
Yes.
I published an article called After the Queen's Gambit. the rise of chess.com and the chess #MeToo movement.
Yes.
So I was looking at all the way that chess culture has changed very dramatically since the release of that Queen's Gambit miniseries on Netflix in 2020. And at the same time, all the very, very unfortunate ways that it has indeed stayed the same. So what happened in 2020, there were two things that kind of changed chess forever. And there's really no going back. So the first one is that release of the Queen's Gambit on Netflix.
Yes.
It was, I believe, the most watched miniseries of the time.
Yes.
Huge numbers. And right after, it did very, very well. And as soon as people saw it, there was a lot of people who were starting to pick up chess again. Either they had maybe not played for a while, or they had learned or they wanted to learn for the first time. They watched the show and they saw Beth Harmon's journey, and they were wanting to play chess for the first time. There were reports of board game stores running out of chess sets and needing to order more at the time. So there was this huge surge in popularity of chess following the miniseries release. At the same time, though, something else happened in 2020, the pandemic. So you've got all these people trying to play a social board game, but you can't, because you can't go to your local chess club, you can't meet up in the park, you can't even really meet up with your friends because we're all, still in the middle of lockdown.
Yes.
So what happened is this website that's been around for a while now, I think around 10 years, called chess.com, was really able to capitalize on this demand, because people wanted to play chess. They couldn't really play it in real life, so they were able to play it online. And there was this huge rise in online chess. And people were turning to chess.com to play, and chess was very strategic in how they used this sudden rise in interest. They bought out all these chess influencers, and chess influencers also became a thing because they were playing chess on Twitch, which was very interesting. When Beth Harmon plays on the Queen's Gambit, she plays chess very slowly, right?
Yes.
Over the course of many hours, or maybe some of the matches they played the whole day, and they're like, okay, we got to go to sleep, and we'll play the next day. So what was happening on Twitch is you have these grandmasters, really good players, but they're playing 5-minute games, or sometimes 3-minute games, or sometimes 1-minute game. And this, game that's on the Queen's Gambit that's hours long and very meditative and slow, it became something very quick. And, it's the same kind of adrenaline-fueled dopamine rush that you would get from watching those other games that are on Twitch that are more bullet hell, because you're taking the pieces very, very quickly and you're watching skilled players play it at that level. So chess.com, they made deals with those influencers, and they also made deals with other things, with other places to get the youth, because they really were targeting the youth. They had Mr. B spots. They made deals with Clash of Clans and Duolingo. And as a result, they have a huge surge in subscribers. For a time, they were the #1 app in the App Store.
Wow.
400 million users at one point.
Wow.
It's a huge surge in chess, especially this one system, chess.com.
Yes.
And as a result, you've got this new digital company who's kind of coming out of nowhere, and they have a lot of power in the chess world. For a long, long time, the people who have had power in the chess world were called FIDE, and they're the Fédération Internationale des Échecs. That's me butchering the French of the International Chess Federation. And we have a U.S. branch of that, which is the United States Chess Federation. And for decades and decades, they've been the ones who rule the tournaments, who make the legislation. And when Beth Harmon goes and plays her tournaments in the show, those are the people who are the arbiters, who make the tournaments, who give the prizes. But suddenly chess.com is doing its own tournaments, and it's trying to put everything on digital. And because people are playing on chess.com way more than they're doing on the board,
Yes.
which is colloquial for like in real life tournaments,
Yeah.
suddenly chess.com has way more power than this ancient governing body
Crazy.
of chess. And they're using it to really push kind of changes. They're using it to really push those faster chess times instead of those older ones, because that's what people play online. You don't have time to play maybe a 3-hour game online, but
Sure.
you do have time to play a 5-minute game.
Yes.
And they've also gotten involved in other controversies because they can. So there was a big cheating controversy a couple years ago, and it's spiraled into more cheating controversies.
Wow.
It's one of the bigger stories in chess right now. And chess.com is not afraid to get involved and say, we back this person. We back this person. We've done a review of all the games that this grandmaster's played on our site. And yeah, we've decided they've cheated a number of times. And, they happen to have signed. So the controversy was between Magnus Carlsen and Hans Niemann, where Magnus Carlsen accused Hans Niemann of cheating.
Yes.
They happened to have signed a deal with Magnus Carlsen for $82 million right before the controversy came out. And so they decided to pull their weight a bit and look through the games that Hans Niemann played on their site.
Yes.
And decide that, well, we found evidence Hans Niemann has indeed cheated on our site. They got involved in the war in Ukraine, and to this day, Russian and Belarusian players are not allowed to show their flag on chess.com games. They're all allowed to play, but they are banned from having a Russian or Belarusian flag.
Wow.
At the same time, so chess has changed a ton in the past 5 years. It's moving increasingly to digital.
Yes.
And there's even new formats being explored. And that's what the first part of the article is about.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's such an amazing history, and we know from history that chess, more than any other game that I know of, has been involved in political situations. And as we're seeing here, we're dealing with some capitalist kind of influencing. So we have chess, a tabletop game, influencing the world, Bobby Fischer and everything else coming into play. And at the same time, the world influencing the game itself.
Exactly, yeah. And they reference that at the end of Queen's Gambit, where they kind of, the final match is supposed to reference Bobby Fischer's famous game against the Soviets. And you're absolutely right. And my personal favorite thing about chess is that it's absolutely global.
Yes.
You can go online and you'll play someone from anywhere in the world. And that's just fun to me. The fact that it's been embraced everywhere, and it's kind of its own universal language at this point.
Yes.
But, some of the negatives is exactly what you're talking about in this capitalist kind of buyout. So
yes.
I used to work for a company called Silver Knights, which did chess teaching and chess curriculum in DC. That company got bought out by Plate Magnus Group, which was owned by Magnus Carlsen. Then that company got bought out for $82 million by chess.com. So you see more and more vertical integration to, at this point, nearly everything in terms of teaching, in terms of instructions, even merchandise. A lot of it is owned by chess.com.
Sure.
And they have a near monopoly, especially on like those chess celebrities, those influencers on Twitch.
Yes.
And that was why I was really interested in writing this article, because I felt, they have this new power. And they are not afraid to get involved in controversies.
Yes.
But there's one big controversy that they did almost nothing about, and that was the chess #MeToo movement that arose in the summer of 2022. Chess has had a long and really sordid issue with misogyny that has long been protected by FIDE. Bobby Fischer, who we mentioned, who had that famous game with the Soviets, he was not only a famous anti-Semite, but was often recorded as saying that women were inferior players. He said in an interview that women are terrible chess players. I don't know why. I guess they're just not so smart. I don't think that they should mess with intellectual affairs. You know what I mean? They should keep strictly to the home. And he's still glorified within the chess community as, we don't question what that means when we're always teaching his games to children, the double message we're sending. Now, and it's not just players from the 1960s. Nigel Short is the current director of chess development in FIDE.
Mm-hmm.
And he stated that men and women's brains are hardwired differently. My wife doesn't feel embarrassed in asking me to maneuver the car out of our narrow garage. Rather than fretting about inequality, perhaps we should just gracefully accept it as a fact. He was asked about these comments and he doubled down. And he's still the director of chess development for FIDE. So it's not, looking good for equality when you're a person in charge of the future of chess just blatantly states they don't believe in the equality of men and women.
Mm-hmm.
And being in the trenches, you can see that, women want to play chess, especially, like you see it in the younger groups, but there's this boys club and kind of this hostility that grows when they get older. When you have Beth Harmon in Queen's Gambit, when she beats those players who think they're better than her, there's this running thing in a Queen's Gambit where she beats them and then like, oh, you're so good. And they maybe offer a handshake, or there's one thing where they kiss her hand. And there was a round table of women grandmasters who were sharing their own experiences of what happened when they beat good players. And usually it's something like they curse them, they flip over the chessboard, they accuse them of cheating. It's not a sudden acceptance of women's equality in chess. Yeah. It's a lot worse and it's a lot more hostile. And what also came out during that summer of the chess #MeToo movement was there's also a long history of sexual assault, especially around tournaments, that FIDE has been ignoring for years because it's been perpetuated by grandmasters, some of the strongest players in chess. And just like, some of FIDE was willing to ignore Bobby's anti-Semitism because he was a strong player. FIDE largely dismissed for years reports of sexual assault of some of the strongest grandmasters. And eventually what happened in the #ChessMeToo movement was not only did you have an open letter signed by 100 players just detailing all their experience and solidarity, you had many of the top women in FIDE ultimately resigning and sharing their own experiences. And more stuff came out. And I don't want to share all the details here because it can get quite graphic, but a lot of it is in my article.
Yes.
Lead Chess, which is an independent chess site, has done an excellent job reporting on all of this. They are a lot more concerned about what's going on in this than chess.com.
Mm-hmm.
So following this, following this, chess.com did not get involved in this controversy in the same way it had with the cheating controversy and the Ukraine controversy. And I found that quite disappointing because FIDE is never going to change. FIDE is the old guard organization that has perpetuated this misogyny for years. But chess is changing.
Yes.
Chess.com is new, and now Magnus Carlsen is trying to start his own different kind of playing chess, which is this variant called freestyle chess. And so there is new kind of organizations and people that have the power to challenge FIDE. But with this change in culture, we need to seize this moment to change the misogyny that is deeply seated within chess. And that's what I'm arguing with my article. And if you want more, please read it in the first edition.
Absolutely. Yeah. All the links will be at the bottom of the show notes, but you can find it at boardgameacademics.com. It's issue 1 of our journal. I'm struck by the irony how of Beth Harmon and the Queen's Gambit. Here's this female character who's revolutionized chess in the modern age and has brought so much attention and passion. It has so much gravity behind it, so much power, and has upturned. And now we see so many young girls, we see so many women kind of engaging in chess and bringing their brilliance to the table, because all of this is happening and we're so inspired by it. And it seems, again, that the revolution has come and everything's great now. And there's equality now because of this TV show that has brought it to the forefront and has raised this female character as this amazing chess prodigy. And yet at the same time, if we look at the game of chess itself, the queen, the only female character play piece on the board, which is the most powerful, the most dynamic, the center of the game state, and yet it always does come back down to the king. It comes back down to, we must protect the weakest, most fearful, patriotic, right? The patriarch is the board. It even though the queen is the most powerful piece, we're still defending the king, right? So, and then we see it again, going back to the real world, even though the show has brought in so many female fans, female presenting fans, and yet still at the same time, that misogyny, the patriarchy still endures. Fundamentally, it's at the ground of all of this. How amazing and disturbing at the same time this happens to be.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you bring up the queen. Jennifer Sahade, who was at the very center of the chess #MeToo movement, did some fascinating research into the history of that piece. It didn't used to be the most powerful piece on the board.
Okay.
It used to have much more limited movement. And going back to, I want to say the 16th century, it could have been a little bit earlier, when it began to move as much more powerfully as it did. There was actually a lot of pushback because the idea of the woman piece just being the most powerful on the board, and people flipped out.
Yeah.
They couldn't really they couldn't handle it. And she did an excellent bit of research on how just that idea was threatening.
That's great. And again, now we have that idea. And if you would ask me, as far as talking about tabletop gaming, what game has the best female representation? Obviously, chess is an abstracted game, of course. Probably almost the most abstracted. Maybe there's a couple other games like maybe Go or something else like that. And yet, still, the patriarchy remains. Still, the misogyny remains. It's still, it has not flipped. The board has not changed. The state of the game, the state of our society has not changed, right? Like, most powerful, and yet at the same time, it's sacrificial to the king at all times.
And so just seeing how that is in a simple board game is kind of the crux of feminism's message.
Yes.
The personal is political. So I mean, it's in the mechanics of a game, but then it's also, becomes very real in how there's kind of terrible things going on in the culture.
Yes. And,
that's, I think what you're pointing out is key to the work of feminism and feminist media studies, is seeing how, the small things, but then they become very, very real things, and not to ignore how all of it's connected.
All right, Matthew. So why don't you give us a sense of what's next and what you're looking to do, both professionally and academically?
Absolutely. So I am working on my dissertation.
Nice.
As a scholar, I'm about a year out from finishing it up. So looking for, hopefully I'm going to apply for jobs this fall. So I'm very close to maybe finally getting that posting at a university after bachelor's, master's, doctorate, being in school for a long time. But I'm looking forward to going on that next step.
And what's your topic for your dissertation?
So I am disability studies in horror.
Okay.
So I look at neurodivergent representation in horror media. So I'm bipolar. So particularly my scholarship is very focused on destigmatizing bipolar, and all neurodivergent personalities. Horror media is probably my favorite way to analyze this because a lot of it's the most regressive, reactionary interpretations you can find. But then every once in a while, you see something that uses horror and uses its ability to look at taboo to say something absolutely beautiful about the neurodivergent condition. So I'll be looking at that in my dissertation, and in particularly, while all my scholarship usually focuses on feminism and neurodivergent kind of media and media analysis, my dissertation will be particularly looking at how horror is often kind of made for ableist consumption. So I'll be looking at that for horror in the past 20 years and how horror kind of takes certain able minds on a journey.
Yes.
So I'll be I'm having fun with working through that research.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
No, I'm really excited to read that. Hopefully we can get that out and published so that we can all check that out. And obviously, very important media study literacy that we all need.
Yes.
Because, as you said, as far as neurodivergency, it's been propagandized to be a fear tactic, and that has had tremendous repercussions on our society and us as individuals, how we feel about ourselves, how we think about ourselves, how we think about others. And the stigmatization is deadly. I think that's the thing.
Disability studies is very young.
Yes.
So I agree with everything you're saying, but it's exciting to be part of disability studies because it's so young and it's new and it's emerging as its own field that it's really exciting time to be a scholar. What I try to do specifically is I want to be, I call myself a feminist disability scholar because I agree with the certain professors, Rosemary Garland Thompson, in particular, who's arguing that a lot of the obstacles that disability studies need to overcome are those that have already been faced by feminism, which is a much older discipline. Sure. Disability studies is very generalized, has its problems with kind of focusing on white positionalities. And I believe that the two disciplines can strengthen each other. They focus on embodiment, focus on emotions.
Sure.
So they can add a lot to each other when thought intersectionally. So that's where a lot of my scholarship comes from.
Wonderful. Now we're looking forward to it. Thank you for sharing that.
I also have an article, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, please, good.
Coming out soon in the Canadian Journal for Disability Studies, which looks at some positive and negative examples of using popular culture as pedagogy for looking at disability. So I'm looking at some ways that it can, looking at popular culture for disability representation can be stigmatizing, and other ways where it can be ask more complex questions.
Of course.
The article is called "Please Stop Using Darth Vader to." Please stop diagnosing Darth Vader with borderline personality disorder to teach undergraduates about neurodivergence and talk about bipolar Zelda instead.
That's great. That's so great. Now I appreciate that, especially, I teach psychology myself, and I've worked with a lot of colleagues out there, and I've seen a lot of class presentations, and there's a genuine desire to connect with young people or use geek culture and fandom to kind of explain complex themes and feelings and emotions and theories and of that nature. And I think that is absolutely necessary and positive, because there's a new canon, right? The old canon is still there, but it's not as impactful. And again, there's certainly problems with the old canons at the very least. But then there is, how would you say it? In that almost like fast fashion kind of way, like
that's exactly
go ahead, please. You're the scholar here.
What I ultimately argue is that it works if you treat it as a text, and you implement what we know about media studies. So there was a lot of negative examples that kind of don't really take into account the textual analysis that needs to be done.
Sure.
And ultimately, all good media analysis takes into account what's going on in production, in audience analysis, thoughts, Stuart Hall's,
Yes.
how people interpret it differently. You can't just go to a character and diagnose it and call it a day. You've got to look at all the different things that happen. So I'm exploring, kind of pushing against that fast fashion in my article,
Yes.
and calling for a deeper kind of media analysis of pop culture.
Yes, and especially in our day, even with as digital natives as we are, and social media and the encapsulation and the 30-second TikTok video, like just label this.
Yeah.
Just label this so I can know if I'm going to like it or support it or push back against it, where almost everything that's human related, you have to sit with, take some time with it, unpack it, because the packaging of it for easy consumption is the most problematic part of it, right?
And sadly, I think a lot of the labels, especially for my own condition, bipolar, and those I work most closely with, schizophrenia, borderline personality disorder, those labels carry a lot of negative connotations with them, and they shouldn't. And I think what disability studies is doing is pushing against that. But part of when we talk about it is demystifying, and not just ending with a label, but talking about human beings and human conditions.
Yes. And we've lost a lot of our humanity because of that fast fashion kind of concept that we seem to imprint upon everything that we do, including people. And it's and a lot of the challenges and problems that we have is just based around that more than anything else. If we would just slow down a little bit and take the time and the consideration to unpack, or at least, conceive of that with somebody. And I think that's a wonderful. Please send us the link. We'll include that link in the show notes so that people could check out your articles and all your content out there.
I absolutely will. Thank you so much.
Sure. So Matthew, going forward, we have the next academic conference on October 3rd and 4th at the National Strong Museum of Play in Rochester, New York. We certainly want everyone to attend. Should be a fantastic
I'm so excited
time
for it.
More of these conversations.
Yes.
I mean, there's nothing more geekier in the best way possible than find other geeks to geek out about geek stuff. It's like exponentially geeky.
Your conference is fun. I've been to fun conferences, and I've been to conferences where you do the thing. And yours is one of the fun ones.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, we want every aspect of it to be embedded with that kind of ultra collaborative, geeky fandom culture, respectful integration of the people, the individuals that are here to elevate their work and themselves in the manner in which they feel most appropriate for them. And I think just by letting people be people, I think that exploration and that experience for everybody else is at the table or at the conference at a larger part, we're all liberated by that. And I think that's the thing that typically we forget. These communities are our communities. We're part of all of these communities, even if we don't necessarily identify with it. But there are aspects of that with all of us. And by exploring and being open to it, we learn more and understand greater sense of ourselves and the world around us. Because we have been, again, with that fast fashion thing, like we've been fed a steady diet of this is who you are, this is what you are, and this is what other people are. And not only are we othering other people, but we're othering ourselves. And that's really the most chilling thing about that, right? Mm-hmm. Because we don't even know who we are. And I know, when I work with students and I have conversations with them, and I'll say, have you ever said or done a thing and didn't know where it came from or why you thought that or why you did that? And they're like, yeah, all the time. I'm just like, yeah, isn't that interesting? And they're like, yeah, that is interesting. I didn't know that. Like, I didn't know that I felt that way or wanted to express that way. Or it's like, exactly. That's what it is. We want you to recognize and understand parts about yourself you did not know exist. So we tried this at a conference.
Tie it all back to board games. That's a fascinating way to, kind of slow down and just be with people for a couple hours. That's, a social event that, in one way can kind of fight that fast fashion, because you're socializing over these mechanics. And when it's done really well, it's its own kind of slow social experience that's really different from what you're describing, which is, by the way, why I'm really excited for there's a talk on Lacan on Catan, which I'm looking forward to, not just because it rhymes, but because I think it might bring up some of these same things we're talking about at the upcoming conference.
Yeah, I think so too. And there's a presentation by Dr. Paul Horde, who we did another interview. So this will either be before or after that one. So definitely check that one out as well. But again, Lacan breaking down and conceiving of language differently and more contextually, I think, is something that everybody could use. And again, in relation to Catan, I mean, there's so much to say about that. But I'll let Paul do those things, because he wrote a paper on that.
So come to the conference and see it for yourself.
Yes, absolutely. And again, there's so much content on the BoardGameAcademics.com website, where you could see Matthew and all of his wonderful colleagues putting out tremendous work way back to the very first journal. So with that said, Matthew, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a wonderful time.
I've very much enjoyed being here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Sure. And thank you all for joining us here for this week of the semester. You can find links for Matthew's work in the show notes. And again, of course, don't forget the upcoming conference. Depending on when you listen to it, there's always going to be a conference coming up. Details at BoardGameAcademics.com. Until next time, keep rolling and thinking critically. Take care, everybody.
Bye.